So guys, thank you so much for joining us. We've had a good bonding, and so I'll start with. Okay, hold on a second. I'm going to start with you, Asif. I'm going to now. I would want you to start off by explaining to me like a 5-year-old, right? Because I still don't understand what do you exactly mean in a one sentence what omni-channel or a single entity for a customer actually means. So what does it mean in a very simplified way, and how do you envision it? If you give me one example, in a local scenario or something that's been going on.
Omnichannel in one line would be, you go into my store to buy the SIM card, but whenever you use it, you can just interact using WhatsApp or using one of our many applications. So omni-channel experience isn't just being limited to one channel. It's actually being able to communicate with me through any channel. It's being able to, thank you, it's being able to communicate through any channel, but most important, I need to know what you have said on each of those interactions, so you don't have to re-explain yourself every time.
Okay, and living in your today's reality, having an intangible product, where do you see, if you've seen an example or you're aspiring to be in a small example as well, how do you plan on starting the journey?
So we've started the journey. Already, everybody knows Jazz. We're a mobile operator. We serve and support 75 million customers every day. People are interacting with us on a regular basis without coming to any store or without having to make any call to the call center. People are self-helping themselves, and I see a future whereby we empower people with the tools so they can interact with us at their own determination, so they are not dependent on us. So the most important thing in this is give the customer the tools to empower them to communicate with us on their terms. But every time, whatever channel they use, I need to have recorded that so that they don't have to repeat themselves. So if the customer has gone into a shop in Karachi, or then has called the call center, or has interacted with me over WhatsApp, or then is now in Islamabad, I need to ensure the connectivity of that conversation is linked so that the customer doesn't repeat themselves. So that's the essence of omnichannel.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'll come to you, Ali. Being a CPG person all my life, and the closest that I can relate to is retail, because that's how I want my customers to also all link up. What do you think is the pre-work required in retail to lay the benchwork for Pakistan to eventually become an omni-channel environment for all of the brands?
Okay, Assalamu alaikum everyone. So from a very retail perspective, I think I'd rather bifurcate this question into two parts. One is what needs to be done if you're a startup, if you're somebody who's just starting up, or you already have a store which is in infancy. And the second part would be, if you're a large organization or you're a pure. Okay. So from a startup perspective, I think before the customer becomes a part of your organization, you are actually able to acquire them. The first thing is that you need to have that basic technology platforms, the framework, to really know if this customer can potentially become a part of you, then what is their unique ID. And I think this is also what we saw in the Google case study. It was spot on that we really need to identify every customer when it comes to somebody who will be a part of your data pool, your customer pool. So starting with the unique IDs, setting up the platform. The second part really would be to understand their preferences through all these digital channels that are there today. So for example, there would be certain customers who can be potentially a part of your organization, but they would like to only be contacted through a voice call. And then there would be other people like me who really hate voice calls, would rather go for an email, newsletters, and they might have downloaded your app, but they have never been a part of your organization so far. So they would rather go for a push notification. So really understanding the preferences of the customer, having a platform which helps you identify that customer, whether online or offline, and then using the same data really to feed into your marketing plan. So I love that part where somebody highlighted the concept of LTV. Now this lifetime value, we don't really talk about it too much, but at the end of the day, that is the most important KPI when you are comparing it with with the cost of acquiring that customer. So it's not just one transaction; they could be there for you for years to come. So really, I think before the customer becomes a part of your esteemed business, you really have to set it up, all the tools, the technology part, the preferences part, and then feeding everything into the marketing. That's for the startups, because it is easier to do if you are starting it up now from scratch. If you are a large business, then it is about integrations of your existing business. So your legacy business that has generated profit for years and years, that is on the top of top of mind for the management. And now a big change management needs to come in to understand the online channel as well. And also, this disproportionate, if that's the right word, disproportionate level of attention from the management team needs to come in if you are already a legacy business, an offline business. And that is how, you will eventually create that platform where the customer would become a part of your organization. And all of this needs to happen way before customer starts interacting with you. So you need to be ready to grab that customer, given that whether you are a large organization or you're a startup. So yeah, that's my take on how to take things forward.
Just one question on this. So when you talk about one singular identity, what do you recommend in at least your case of business? What do you use? Is it the phone number? Is it the email address? Is it something else? How do you pinpoint that singular customer?
Yeah. So let's say from a very Pakistan perspective, I think mobile number has really worked for us, and thanks to players like Jazz and other telco players who have really helped us in that way, because there are more mobiles than PCs in the country. And even if you look at the PTA data, we know that there might be some people who are still not on internet, but they do have a mobile number. So that has really worked for us. And now that we are at a different scale, we also use our loyalty points ID. That also works for us. But if you're a startup, then mobile numbers is the way to go. That is what has worked for us.
Okay. So Mavish, coming to you, you're also in retail and experience the criticality of omnichannel. So do you have a industry benchmark where you feel this is where the world, or at least Pakistan, should head? These are the guys who are doing it right, and just copy?
So a very, very pertinent question, and I think it is more than anybody else today in an industry that we are operating in, Al Karam Studio. We're operating in an industry that offers undifferentiated product, highly competitive, highly undifferentiated, and very price sensitive, right? And in this kind of a space, to just operate on a legacy philosophy, or to just operate with the thought that we have a footprint across the country which is brick and mortar based, and customer will come to us once we send out our SMSs, is going to soon get very dated. So a couple of examples, global examples that really inspire me. One is directly related to the space that we operate in, and the other one is a little more on a personal experience that I've had. So I'll go with the personal experience first. It's the Disney example. Couple of years back, went to Disney with my kids, and we were all given our wristbands. I still have those. My kids and I both have it. And right from the time we checked into a Disney resort to the time we walked into the park, our experience was planned. What kind of activities are we going to do in these particular Disney parks, plus fast pass, which rides can offer me a fast pass. When I take pictures, my app, my wristband was linked to an app which were already capturing all those pictures. So I did not need to physically bother with taking my cell phone pictures. Then, putting up those experiences on Facebook. And I can tell you, Disney still emails me, and I still remember which parks I went to, because it made my experience right from the point of check-in. In fact, even meal planning was there. So if my kids wanted a certain kind of meal, I had restaurant locations within that, and I felt that memory for me, not to having worked hard while going through the parks and just worrying about what rides I'm going to enjoy and what's my day going to look like, was my wristband's job. So I feel that's where as a customer I experienced Omnichannel to its peak. The second example that resonated really well with me is Walgreens. Now, Walgreens is a case study that I read about having a physical brick and mortar structure across US. They went to the extent where, they made sure that they're, even within a few kilometers space, they would go and locate their brick and mortar stores. Now, this was when the book was originally written, when I read their case. But from what I understand now, they have an app that now connects their customer to that in-store experience very seamlessly. Through that app, you put together your prescriptions, you also ask for refills through that app, and you decide which Walgreens store you go and do your curbside pickups. Within the store, if there are any deals, if there is any discounts that are being offered. So, something that was very rudimentary in brick and mortar, they've kind of gone ahead and connected it to technology, and also to the fact that their customers are now much more technology driven to capture their data, to know where they live, and also to make sure that they go pick it up at the most convenient location ever, and what is going to be their next possible prescription. So they need to be ready for it, and that closest store is identified and it pops up on their app. So yeah, these are the two examples.
I mean, these are great examples. And now I'll come back to you, Ali. Now, you've talked about how you're prepping yourself to get into the Omnichannel. And this is the prep period. What's forward to come? How do you launch in this phase? And once you're there, how do you, what do you do post-launch? How do you maintain this? And how do you encourage this ecosystem for survival?
Okay, so I'll give you examples from also from Metro, but strictly from a framework perspective. I think once you have set it up, and now that you can see that certain customers are a part of your company, they are your customers. The next thing is to provide a single source of truth. So whether it is offline or online, whether it's a customer service team. So basically, you have to focus on your foot soldiers, people who are actually your touch points on the ground. So it's great to have a fancy management and great experienced people at the top. They really drive the strategy. But at the end of the day, the best strategy is execution. I read it somewhere. So, and from an execution perspective, your people on the ground, they need to have access, they need to be empowered enough to be able to treat the customer, have access to the data, understand the process of returns, the overall, let's say, loyalty points, accrual, redemption. All of that needs to be a part of the dashboard that your foot soldiers have. And that they are the people who actually make a difference on the ground once you have acquired those customers. So yes, you can run a lot of data crunching, and you can have your CRM activities, your retention planning, because you have that unique ID-based data. You can have your upselling, cross-selling, but that is all back office. So really, the omni-channel experience would be on the ground. And one key example here would be that, so half a decade ago, when I became a part of Metro, 100% of the business was offline. And there were no digital channels. There was one website called metro.pk, but it was more about information, where our stores are, but nothing transactional. So we knew that we have invested a lot of capital into building the blast freezers and facility for fresh. And because I was also coming from Daraz, I don't know if SN has left. So I had that thing in mind that if a player comes in, they have a lot of pressure of growth and GMV, but that was not the case with us. So we already had the infrastructure, we had the stores, and we wanted to stand out in selling ultra fresh. So the first experiment that we did with an omni-channel mindset was, we looked at the data of our offline customers who are only buying fresh. And then we came up with a concept of open box policy, which means that you have to give the same experience to the customer as if that customer was visiting the store. So open box policy essentially means that you can check the product, you can smell it because it is ultra fresh. We are talking about, let's say, meat mince or leafy vegetables. And then, normally in Pakistan, these are the kind of shots which are called by the elders of the home. They might not open the door. So we gave them ample time to have the same experience the way they are in store. And I think that really clicked for us. And over the years, we have seen that the same customers who were buying offline, now they're also buying online. And we have identified the best and the most profitable segment for us as somebody who would buy online and offline. So online is great. Offline, legacy business, doing very well. But this A intersection B is where, we have really made money. And it was never about, valuations or going for the big numbers and next round of investments. It was all about profitability as a large corporate. And, I think it's public knowledge that, we are running it, we are a profitable business. And yeah, I think from this example, I also want to share that insight that, again, the way I started that, the lifetime value of a customer across the channels really gives you a direction of, where to take the company forward. So omni-channel at core with customer at the center, and it doesn't matter which channel they are coming from, but at the end of the day, all the profitability and ROI that you want to plan or you want to have as a target will only happen if you can provide exactly the same experience online or offline. Another thing could be, this self-pickup versus delivery. So if a customer comes in the store and they ask that, we have ordered it online and we have a self-pickup slot now, your store needs to know everything. So this connects to the single source of truth where I started this answer from. So really, it is a mix. It is a mix of change in mindset, bringing in the right data points, and really empowering the people on the floor who are actually dealing with the customers.
So my biggest issue was doing like FMCG marketing for the first 10 years of my career. What we would do, हम लोग इश्तेहार चलाते थे, और we had no connections to where's the ad being viewed and everything. And it was called a spray and pray model. We would run the advertisement और फिर हम दुआ करते थे अल्लाह से कि अब सेल आ जाए, because कोई connection होती नहीं थी. And then if my boss or anybody would ask me, you did this billboard, you did this outdoor, what is the result? I had no answer. Still today, I'm like, okay, let's do this, let's find out. So, Mavish, my next question is to you. How do you think what are the major challenges of actually going in omnichannel?
Coming from an organization that currently has not implemented omnichannel. But what I can tell you every day, what I do is put down or resolve fights between two major channels that I offer to my customer, which is e-commerce and retail, brick and mortar retail. And I can tell you they're super jealous of each other. There is a lot of envy, a lot of fight, a lot of competing, conflicting interests that come into play on a daily basis. Now that's where the root cause lies. I would say that would be the undoing if we ever decide to go into omni-channel. I think at some point we need to define the KPI of everybody who's selling something, that you're selling it for the top line. Everything is going to the company top line. It does not matter whether the sale got generated through an advertisement that was put in by the e-commerce team, or was it something that we generated through a TVC, or was it something that we put through a mall branding effort, right? And that's where, the Google example, where Amir Altaf just took us through that example, I think that really, really resonated with me, which was telling me that whatever conversion that is happening based out of an ad that you've put up, whether it's offline or online, if that gets captured and the credit is given to the entire team, then I think it will be easier for us to sort of move forward with the implementation of omnichannel. So I think the internal conflicts are probably for me right now are the biggest barrier to going forward with this. Once we kind of clear those out, I think in a market, again, that I repeat, where you're operating with a very undifferentiated product, you need to offer customers something. If Gen Z likes to interact with me on an app, or through phone, through internet, and they would like to pick it up, or they would like it to be delivered the same day, and if I'm able to offer that as a retail brand, as opposed to the rest of them waiting for the customer to arrive at their doorstep, I think that's where the difference will come in. Yeah.
So, I mean, just one question to this, and any of you can take it because you guys will have the experience, and then I have one more question for you, Asif, which would be the most controversial one. So the problem is now at a company, we have an e-commerce manager and we have a traditional trade manager. They're both different, they're both fighting, right? If within the company we can't have ownership of sales singularity, then who's going to own the customer? Because everybody has their different customers. What is the recommended way forward to go with this?
So from experience, you have to combine the online and offline sales responsibility, just like Mavish here was identifying. Customer may go into a store, may look at the goods physically, but then prefer to purchase them online. You may put an online advert, which may encourage the customer to go back into the physical, so you get into this new term, which is phygital. Physical and digital worlds combining. Hundreds of companies are doing this well. Apple, for example, they have their stores, people do go in and have a look, and then potentially purchase online. What we have done in past is combined the responsibility and accountability for the two teams. So the online telesales and retail sales team was managed by the same individual because of this omni-channel experience, just from experience.
Yeah, just in terms of also the conflict when it comes to inventory management, right? So if there is a bestseller article in our case, right, and we do have our bestsellers, and there is a huge fight when it comes to bestsellers, and if a transaction has been made on that bestseller, but when it comes to delivering that particular article, and the shopkeeper just decides to hoard it because he knows that his customers will also come and ask for it, and that's where unifying KPIs is so essential, because whether it's an online purchase that has been made that for which that article needs to be released, or an in-store customer, that unification of KPI is very essential for this conflict to just go away. And for me, what's important is that article needs to get to whoever bought it first.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with the colleagues. So I think I'll just summarize it in a single line, that what we did was, in one line, we just put out one bonus letter for the entire sales team. And that has done wonders. All store managers, we have 10 stores here in Pakistan, it's the same sale number, doesn't matter online or offline, because we're also doing B2B. And I think that was a game changer for us a couple of years ago.
Okay. Yeah. You want to add anything? So.
I was just saying thank you for that advice.
So, okay, also one question is, so the key thing that I've identified for Omnichannel is profiles. You need to have a customer profile. Now, let's say even like as a customer, and I'm a 100% audience, I will have 80,000 profiles. I will have a Mobilink profile, I will have a Telenor profile, I have a Metro profile, Alkaram profile. Every place I build to will build a profile for me, right? In the future, I don't think, everybody will have so many profiles. So where do you feel this repetition of every individual creating a profile? Because that's what Google was telling us as well. We're going to be your profile. So where is my profile safe, number one? And as a company, where should my consumer's profile be actually?
That's a good question. So actually, your profile with me is slightly different. I have more information on you, but I keep that to myself. I know where you were this morning. I know which apps you opened. I am watching you, and I know this. However, I'm using that information for myself, using it through your telephone number as your unique identifier. But as a customer, you actually want to have different profiles in order to maintain your own anonymity. You don't want to be a generic individual. So that concept of a segment of one has actually arrived. And when we profile our customer base in any given day, I'm just thinking from memory, I think we have 2,800 different segment campaigns being executed every day. So these are campaigns that we disseminate onto our applications, whether it is onto the balance inquiry or into the call center or into our offline retail environment. But we've segmented you based on your behavior and interaction with me. We then distribute that so that you get a particularly personalized experience with us. Whether you then come to our website or with the single sign-on, whether you've come onto my application, whether it be Jazz Cash, Jazz World, Tamasha, Bajao, our music app, or whether you just come to Jazz Retail, we will give you a personalized experience based on the data we've collected over you and we've evolved over time. Right, so then that brings us into the case of data protection and cybersecurity. We have got state-of-the-art data protection at the moment. We're paranoid about leakages of data and all of this information because of the richness of the information that we can store, because of your access with us. So we have that information and it is incumbent on us to be able to protect that. I just want to say one other thing. We are doing a lot of work with all of the regulators. One big challenge we are finding in this, the policymakers are not keeping up to speed with the change in the market that's taking place. So we've struggled with whether it would be, no disrespect, whether it be State Bank, the Ministry of IT, the telecoms regulators, they've really struggled to keep in touch with the speed of change that's actually taking place in the marketplace. So there's a lot of work to do on advocacy. The stuff that I'm going to be honest about, we're talking about, is decades old. We are not reinventing anything here. I think I did my first online transaction maybe in 1999. And that means I physically paid for it in advance. It was none of this cash on delivery. I buy from Al-Karam or Metro and then I give the guy 2,000 rupees for the product. No, this was actually done. But the regulator and the environment allowed us to actually build the platforms to be able to ensure that seamless connection and seamless customer experience. So two things. Firstly, behavioral data is critical. And secondly, a lot of work has to be done to educate policymakers to create the policy environments that enable much, much more digitization. I have to say, we haven't even, not even close, we haven't even scratched the surface yet of what this can do.
Okay, thank you so much. I've just been instructed, I've ran over time. And I don't see any questions, so I'm going to summarize the session by thanking all of you. So key things is, how do you, number one, is benchmark to the world best. And then the latest takers is, what do you aspire, what is the vision locally, and how do we actually match with our national standards and protocols versus where we aspire to be as, companies that are global or local, right? So guys, thank you so much. Ali, I'll call you on stage.
Thank you so much.
Appreciation.
So can I request Mr. Saqib Ahmed, who's at SAP, to present mementos to our fellow panelists.